Hey everyone, tonight we are up in northern Ontario, driving on some of the logging roads. We just set up camp a couple of hours ago. I'm going to turn the heat on nice and low on the feet because they're a little bit cold. So we just set up camp a couple hours ago. It's now about to be 7 o'clock at night. The sun went down about an hour ago. We already are gaining some good daylight. It's no longer getting dark at 4 o'clock. It's now getting dark around 6. This road already has about 2 inches of snow on it. Every track you see here is from me. I drove down here earlier, drove back, found a nice camping spot in some really nice, dense, dark, balsam fir trees. Set up a hot tent. We ran the wood stove, more for show than anything else, because we had a gas heater. Good thing we brought the gas heater. One time I camped with a hot tent stove, and it did awesome keeping the hot tent nice and warm, but that's because we had really good wood. That video is titled Camping in the Middle of the Road. It was an unplowed road that no one was using, not even snowmobiles. So I just dug a big hole in about 3 feet of snowpack and did that. That was a very warm camp, actually. But we had nice dry wood. Here, all the trees, they're covered in dead branches on the bottom because the trees reject the ones that don't get sunshine, so endless supply of that, but they're covered in so much moss and lichen this far north that it keeps them kind of moist. And I learned today it's kind of hard to keep the stove running on that stuff. It doesn't burn very hot. But we did use the stove to burn a little bit of trash, just trash that had food on it so bears couldn't smell it. And yes, I know bears would usually be hibernating, but up here we did actually see a couple signs saying do not feed the polar bears. So then we go ahead and look up, and yes, it is possible for polar bears to live here. We are right next to, what's the town again that we drove up to? Otter Rapids, is that right?
Timmins.
Timmins?
Yeah.
No, Timmins was the town we stayed at last night, about 4 hours south of here. Now we're near Otter Rapids, Canada. And if we drove north a couple more hours, I don't think those roads are even passable this time of year because we had it plotted a little bit further north and it told us to go down this road, which ends. It's a dead end. We have to wait until spring to follow this logging road further. But up here in Otter Rapids, there's a very large hydroelectric plant, and that's basically the only reason the roads are plowed up to this point. And then there's giant high-tension power lines going back hundreds of kilometers back into the cities to supply power. I guess they found a really good spot to build the hydro station up here, so that's why they did this so far out of the way with all the power lines going back. When it's this cold, the frost heaving is so bad that even some of the giant high-tension power lines, those giant metal structures, some of them are very crooked, and they had stabilizing cables, I think temporary, just to hold them until that can be fixed in the spring. That was kind of cool to see. I'll add some of that to my camp video on the way back. I didn't actually film those with the stabilizing things, but that'll actually make a good separate video maybe. So right now, these tracks are all from me. No one else has been down here since it started snowing over 24 hours ago. So this is a very rural road, but it's also a dead end. This is only plowed because I think they're about to do some logging. Coming up, you're gonna see an excavator parked somewhere along this road. I'm just keeping the speed very slow. Right now, I'm only going 20 miles an hour, 30 kilometers an hour. Very cold outside. The car right now says -16, but that might be because we're moving. My personal thermometer back at the camp is reading the -20s. We'll take another look at that when we get back. It'll probably be even colder. When it snows and it's this cold, you see the snowflakes are very, very tiny, and they build up really fast. It's very, very fluffy, so it piles up very quickly, but it's light like powder. There's the excavator. You can tell that's been moved recently, but it's also been snowed on. It's Sunday night. Tomorrow is going to be Monday morning, so I expect someone to use this road and maybe use that excavator Monday, the work day, to maybe improve more logging roads. So this is going to end just up here a little bit. Yeah, right now I am running the heat on my feet a little bit. I'm going to turn it up a little more. Hopefully that doesn't interrupt the camera just for a little bit, because my feet are actually very cold. Inside the hot tent, we got it to about 50 Fahrenheit or 10 Celsius, which is pretty good considering the difference in temperature outside the hot tent. But we're just using a propane heater. We got a 20-pound grill tank, and that can run the propane heater 14 hours on high, which is longer than we'll be in there since we're out driving looking for moose right now. And if it was on low, it would be about 30 hours or so, and you split the difference on medium. So I honestly don't know if polar bears hibernate or not. I just know every footage I've seen of them, they're in the snow or they're on ice. So I imagine they're like maybe like a raccoon, they bounce in and out. I'm not exactly sure. You can leave that in the comments if you know the answer. We don't have the signal or anything to look that up at the moment. We just passed a sign on the way up here saying, do not feed the polar bears, and that was kind of interesting to see. But they do appear to live up here in this area. We did look that up, but we didn't look up when they're active, unfortunately, before we lost the signal. Up here there's really no signals. After we come down here to the end of this dead-end road, we'll turn around and we'll go back on the main road for a little bit, which is paved even this far up. I was surprised to see that. And we will be crossing a couple of train tracks down here. There's even train tracks out here in the middle of nowhere. Check. Not super slippery, just a teeny bit of slippage, so we're doing good. I actually pulled off the road earlier and got stuck, bottomed out a bunch, but I eventually got the car out enough. I kept rocking it back and forth, reverse forward rapidly for like half an hour straight. Eventually I made enough space where I could go like 4 feet, gain enough speed, but I could not get out of it because I was so in the rut. But I used the tire chains. I just laid them down on the ground, and that gripped enough to get out. Couldn't get the tire chains on because I was bottomed out. I couldn't reach behind the tire and actually tighten them down on the wheel enough to effectively use them. And the wheels that were in the ditch were the ones that would have been more effective, but I got it out eventually, so that was all that matters. There's really no one out on these roads. Not tonight, but last night we saw 2 moose out on the rural roads. So we're now about, I'd say, almost 14 hours north of Toronto, Ontario. So we're pretty far up. We could go a bit further if we took different routes. Right now, we're very close to the ocean, like a bay or something. Hudson's Bay. We're very close to that. We could probably get to the ocean in maybe an hour or a little more, but I don't think the roads going to it are plowed this time of year. Not sure about that. At least this road, because we had that plotted on the map to get as close to the ocean as possible. It was like a town called Moose Lick something, but the Google Maps said couldn't find a way there. So I don't know if a road there exists. Probably, but it's probably not plowed. I noticed a lot of little teeny towns in northern Canada. You can't get to them any other way than snowmobile or airplane this time of year. They just don't plow the roads. But there are some very far north roads in Canada. Not Ontario, though. They're ice roads. They use them for tractor trailers, especially logging, going out to oil fields and stuff in the winter because you can't go out there any other time. It's too swampy and wet, so the roads have to be frozen, and there's just too many bodies of water to build bridges. The frost heaving would destroy them, so they just drive the trucks on ice roads across everything when it's severely cold. Maybe next year I'll bring the truck up with tire chains and maybe go on those roads a bit. That'd be fun to do. So I'm hoping to see some moose. We saw 2 of them last night on the way up here. Last night we stayed in the town of Timmins, which is about 4 hours south of here. Timmins had a nice cheap hotel we stayed at, motel we stayed at. It was very clean, just dated. It was about 50 USD, or I paid about 70 in Canadian money to stay there for the night. It was nice. Then we stopped at a gas station up here. I think the last one. There's probably another if we continued up to these places. Probably not. I don't know if the roads are even plowed up here, because this road's about to end. This was the route Google wanted to send us on. Maybe the main road would go around. This was probably just shorter why Google sent us down here, but Google doesn't get notified of what private roads are plowed or not plowed. The private landowner's not going to notify Google of that. Just road crews would put a detour into that. What am I seeing up here? I see light. Do you see that? Okay, so up here there are high tension power lines, I said, are going up to that hydro station. And that might be what we're seeing. Maybe there's lights there's like a, what do you call the yard with all the switches and transformers? There might be a light at that. That might be what this light is here. That's probably what that light is. Or a train. I don't think it's a train. Transmission station, I think, no, that's for TV, I think. But I'm thinking that word. Transformer station, something like that. But it's got a bunch of electrical stuff with fencing around it. That's exactly what's lit up. Yeah. I'll show that. It's probably gated, but I'll turn down that little road. Or I'll show it on the way back. The road's about to end. Yeah, that's what that is. Here it is. Can I stop in time? Nope. But I'll back up. The roads are a little bit slippery. Couldn't stop on that short notice. I'll pull in there on the way back. I don't like this angle. I just don't want to get stuck. I can't really see it very well. Not going into it head on because it's kind of pointed down this way. The road continues a little bit. Then there's a big turnaround area. They plowed it with enough space for a tractor trailer to turn around, because I imagine pretty soon they're going to cut down all of the trees where we're camping. Looks like it's about time. Now this stop sign is for the railroad tracks. We're stopping because I'm imagining this is an area for some reason where maybe it's a quiet zone, even though it's the middle of nowhere. Usually there's a stop sign at the railroad when the train won't blow its horn, so you actually have to stop and look for its lights. If there's a yield sign or nothing at all, usually that means the train will blow its horn. I notice Canada has a lot of railroads that have quiet zones. The train doesn't blow its horn like crazy like the ones in my area do when it goes across the road. Road's about to end here. I got out where the road ends and I walked up because I could tell there was a water crossing. There was a 4-foot culvert up here that I walked and showed in the camping video. So you see, these are my tracks. I made a 3-point turn up there at that snowbank. Now we're just going to turn around here. I love that sound of just turning in the snow. Do it one more time. Love this sound. The road's pretty slippery.
Careful, don't do that.
Just doing a little donut there. What?
Scary.
I'm not gonna get stuck there. That's like a little parking lot area. Alright, now you can see the light again. The camera can see the light a lot better than I can. The cameras pick it up a little bit better. Coming up to the train tracks again. love that it's snowing, and it looks like if I turn a little bit right here, you see how there's like a beam of light coming out of the woods where that station is. That's cool. No lights coming. Let's go across the train tracks. These train tracks definitely are active. Earlier today there was no snow accumulated on them, and in these temperatures the sun would not have melted that off the rail. The rail's also very shiny. It means the train goes on it pretty often, because surface rust on railroad would occur pretty quickly if they weren't being used. Just a little surface rust. Heavy rust if they don't get used for a while. But just bright orange rust means it's only been a little while since the train has come, so this is what we got here. Just a little station where they, for the electric company, something like that, access. It looks kind of cool. Backing out again. Now we'll travel a little bit to the main road. I know when it's raining and stuff, the moose hunker down. We did see 2 moose last night, which was pretty cool. The first moose I've seen in Canada. When I'm in Maine, they're pretty common to see. I don't think I've ever actually seen one when it's really cold, but this was the first. There was 2 of them. Probably the mom and the older baby, because it was pretty big. I noticed they're usually more active in the spring when it first starts becoming warm and staying above freezing. The moose seem to be very active in the spring. I feel like as the temperatures get warmer in the summer, they head north or hunker down a lot more. Last time I went to Maine in the fall, I don't think any moose on that trip. Usually when I'm this far north, I've never been this far north actually, it's the furthest north I've ever been. In the summer I want to maybe go on some of the dirt roads even further up in Canada, like above Ontario and the other provinces, maybe even into Alaska hopefully in the summer. That'd be kind of fun. When the roads improve, not like this though. Because a lot of these places, they're so rural, they don't have very accurate weather, I guess. Or it's hard to even find a signal to get the weather or figure out where you are. But in the summer, I'll bring a lot of extra fuel with the truck so we can make mistakes on roads like this and have enough fuel to get out. This car just has a single gas tank, which goes on a full tank about 340 miles. We have about half of that left at the moment. My other truck, I had the dealership put a second fuel tank, so it carries about 2.5 times its fuel, about 55 gallons worth of fuel. Then I'll carry a bunch of gas cans on top of that. In Canada, it costs about twice as much to fill up with gas. As soon as we go by the campsite, that means we're pretty close to the road. Only a few kilometers from the road or so. This entire road, the main road to where they stop plowing, I think is probably 12 kilometers. We just passed a marker that says 9 kilometers to the left. That's what that was. And that's counting down to the main road. Also, when you're out on bad roads like this, your fuel consumption is a little more unpredictable than if you're on the pavement. Hills obviously make you use more gas, but when you're on pavement, it's not like bogging you down. Driving through snow like this does bog you down a little bit because you have to push through it, roll over it. There's also a little bit of slippage. The same thing if you're driving through tons of mud holes or having to just outright drive very slow over large rocks. That all affects it too, so it's good to carry some extra fuel when you're way out. But I know how much fuel I need to keep in the tank to get back to that one gas station. Only supposed to pick up an inch of snow or so, but that was the weather in Timmins a couple hours down. Here I'm unsure, but I doubt it's going to snow enough where we won't be able to get those couple kilometers to the main road, and this will probably get plowed again too. Hoping to see a moose. We'll drive for a little bit, see if we can spot any animals. Keep it nice and slow around the corner. Gotta stay away from the snowbank because the road is not actually this wide. I think they plowed this maybe with a grader, something that has a plow on the side of it. Like, you know, the dump trucks they use to plow the highways, they have the plow in front of the truck, and there's also a plow on the side of the truck so they can plow 2 lanes at a time. Whether it was a dump truck like that or a grader, I think that's what they used here. The truck was in the middle of the road, pushing it way off to the side, making it look like the road was a little bit wider, and I pulled over there thinking that was part of the road, and that is actually the drainage ditch right there, inside the snowbank there. Not inside it, but right in the road of the snowbank, if you know what I mean. They plowed over the drainage ditch, so just got to stay away from that. It's kind of a trap. And if you can notice, there's little sticks and weeds sticking up out of the road. This road is very seldom traveled in the summer, but I think they're going to log it because they're maintaining it pretty well. Maybe they're just maintaining it for that electrical station down there. That's a possibility. But this is also a logging forest, and I can tell it's been cut down before and replanted. You can just tell how the trees are. You can tell it's been disturbed. It's not old growth. Just gonna keep it pretty slow out here. Not gonna exceed 20 miles an hour, 30 kilometers. Like it's picking up a little bit. Very tiny snowflakes. The good news is when we come back to this logging road, it should be easy to find because they have a bright orange sign out at the end of it. I forget what it says. Something to do with the construction. Here's that excavator again. It's got a giant trimmer on the end of it. So they probably trimmed this road pretty recently because that thing's been moved since they plowed it. Monday morning. I think there's enough snow that they'll plow it again. Just gotta make sure I park somewhere where trucks can get around me. Where I was just parked while we set up camp, I think a vehicle could get around me, but not a double wide log truck. But I doubt that would be coming here. Those are for deep wilderness where it wouldn't make sense using a normal trailer because they can move twice as much on those really long wilderness roads. I don't think they'd be using that here. There's another little spot to park. too far away from the camp though. It would probably take a half hour to walk back or more. They're ready for a lot more snow. You see how they pushed down the snowbank and pushed it over so they have space to put more of it? This right here was the first idea to maybe camp at. This is a much better spot. Very dense trees that we're about to drive through in a minute. Hoping to see a moose. Even though we just drove here, a moose could step back into the road. Driving over a culvert, probably in that dip. Maybe tonight we'll be able to get an early night's sleep. Not too much to do. We already had dinner. Don't have to maintain the wood stove. I know I'm personally pretty tired because I forgot a snow shovel, so I had to dig out the entire area for the tent by hand like a dog. Because the snow's kind of crunchy from a few freeze and thaw cycles, I just marched around, broke up all the snow, and then I just threw out all the chunks with my hands and then just dug it out kind of like a dog for a half hour, maybe a little longer. But that took a lot of energy. Kind of tired out from that. I'm also kind of tired out from getting stuck with the car a little bit earlier and setting things up and cutting firewood. And we've been on the road again. I think I said, 14 hours or so of driving to get here from our starting point. So the snow now is probably approaching 3 inches. I think we're approaching the campsite, maybe. See a big hole to the right side where I got the car stuck briefly. Here it is. Nope, that's not it. Where is it? It yet. Let's see what the next mile marker is going to say. Wonder what condition the main road's going to be in, if they're treating it or not. It's too cold for road salt to work, so they did have it sanded and maybe some small gravel, it sounded like, as I was driving over it, just to give you traction on the slippery road. Road salt doesn't do anything in temperatures below 16 Fahrenheit. That's about negative 10 Celsius, I think. Did we pass it?
I don't know. I'm keeping an eye.
I don't think we passed up. Wait, there's a lot of movement there. Yeah, we did not pass it. That was me turning around earlier, looking for a good campsite. This is that first spot where maybe we could leave the car. Yeah, I don't think a tractor trailer needs all that room to go around there. I think they just plowed that in a little bit because that used to be a fork. Here we come up to the campsite. Yeah, I might walk down there and leave the car right at that spot because this isn't too far, right? Where is camp? It's maybe a 10-minute walk. It's definitely coming up because you see how thick the forest is? That's why I chose this area to camp at. Very thick, tall, balsam fir trees, lots of dead material. Here we go, right? Yep. Nope. Everything looks the same, all the clumps in the snow. Our tracks are already covered up from when we came out.
I should probably leave a marker or something.
No, it's definitely enough of where our feet going in and out. Just looking for it. I don't think I'm gonna miss where the car got stuck. 4 kilometers left to the road. We're still in the thick trees, so I don't think we missed it. Here it is. See this big disturbance in the road?
Mm-hmm.
This is where I had to dig for a little while. I got the car stuck in this hole. It was leaning against that hard snowbank. I'm amazed there's no dents in the side doors, because as I was rocking it back and forth, I could hear the sheet metal of the door buckling, and I actually did break a bunch of the plastic pins off of the back bumper, and there's our trail going to the campsite, which is about a 5-minute walk in there. Yeah, there's a big disturbance there. Doing some 3-point turns too. Now we should be down to the road in less than 10 minutes, and then we'll take a right, which looks like it goes a little bit further north. That might actually go to those towns we were looking to go to. It's probably just a longer way around that Google Maps didn't want to give us, but because we're using Google Maps offline, you don't really have that where you can change the route very easily. It has now stopped snowing. It's glimmering and sparkling. I think snow's a lot prettier when it's cold. It's more like crystallized and sparkling and shimmering. It's louder when it's cold. It makes a squeaking and moaning sound as you drive through it. And step in it usually. Maybe it's too fluffy to make the squeaky sound with the feet. I tried that before we got in the car, and it didn't really seem to do that for some reason. You see what we got here now? Those are moose tracks. I got out to take a look at that earlier because it was like drag marks. I thought maybe it was a human walking, but it starts from the woods, walks down the road a little bit. You can still see it in the road. It walked for about maybe half a kilometer, then went back in the woods. So it was either Bigfoot or a human. Then I got out and saw it was just a moose dragging its hooves. So it looked like bigger footprints. It was a moose. There was also very bright orange moose pee in the road. So that moose was kind of dehydrated, not drinking a lot, not eating enough snow. There might be two
Those
sets
might
of
be
moose
fresh,
tracks.
yeah. Those are fresh. Because it went over ours.
Yeah. Those might be fresh, yeah. Because we got like a half an inch of snow since we've been here. We'll keep on looking for moose. We can drive around for another hour. We got the gas to spare. Driving slower, we're actually being, let's look. No, the snow is bogging it down. Sometimes driving slow, we're actually more fuel efficient, but because we're driving through the snow, not really. We're averaging now about 20 mpg, and that's just as bad as my truck usually gets. And I'm not driving the truck, I'm driving my old car, and it's not doing very well because it's bogged down. Any vehicle will get really bad range when you're driving through mud or snow for a long period of time. It's a lot more work to push through that. And here we go. It says stop sign ahead, so we're coming up on it soon. We're also so far out there that we can't get a normal radio station. No FM channels out here. This car doesn't have the satellite radio, so we can just talk out here. Here's the end of the road. looks like they're keeping up with plowing on the main road. And this, I believe, is still paved. It was pavement about an hour back when we could still see the road earlier in the day. I'm imagining it's still paved. We can't see it. We couldn't see it earlier either. It's snow covered. Let's do a brake check. Not horrible. I'm just probably not going to go faster than maybe 25 miles an hour or 40 kilometers an hour. Just keep it nice and slow and remember where we just came out of. So I'm going to look down. I'm going to set this so trip B, I don't need that mileage, so we're setting it at 0 so we'll know what road to go at. So when we turn around, we'll reset it again and go that exact same mileage, and that should be fine, so we can see how we get back. But that's a pretty hard one to miss because it's got that, there's a bright orange construction sign out by the road, and we're not going to drive that far. It's nice out. Let's see how slippery the road is one more time. It's actually not bad at all with the studded tires. And they have been putting gravel and salt down underneath this. There's no other vehicles out here. You see no other tracks at all. And a lot of vehicles is what packs it down, makes it hard and sheer ice. So that's a plus side too. No one out here. So I'm going a bit faster, 30 miles an hour, 50 kilometers, and keep it around there since the road is good enough. Hopefully we'll see a moose or at least a rabbit or something out and about. The snow is hard enough in the woods. Things like a rabbit wouldn't sink. They'd be able to hop around on the top nicely because there's like a good crust. About 38 minutes. I'll probably go about an hour in this vlog. Hopefully we see something, but you know how it is. A lot of times when I stop recording, then a moose pops out and disappears before I can get the camera back out. That's happened so many times. It happened last night. As soon as I saw the moose in the road, jumped to get the camera out and they were gone before I could even get it into record mode. See the center line, so I'm just going to stay right here in the middle. I don't know if you can see the ripples in the snow on the camera, but those are frost heaves. You can maybe hear them. I can feel them. There's a ton of really small ripples. No big ones yet. Sometimes you hit a frost heave that's so bad it can almost make you lose control and hit the stop blocks. It's cold enough that the snow is like freezing to the bottom of the windshield a little bit. cold out. Start the camera up again if we happen to see a moose on the road. I'll just keep it on the whole time where I just have to push a button. So a lot of times moose and things will be walking in the road in places like this because it's easier, it's less energy than going through the very deep snow. There's like 2 feet of snow on the ground at least in these spots right now. So animals will typically walk in the road because it's easier for them. So if we see something, I'll turn the camera back on. But I hope today's video was interesting, everyone. Thanks for watching and have a great day.